Welcome to Festival Fridays at the Fourth Line Theatre. Would you all join me in welcoming Tracey Germa, who works for OSSTF, which is the Ontario Secondary Schools Teachers Federation. Yes, welcome Tracey Germa. So now, full disclosure, Tracey and I have known each other, and I'd safe to say been friends for 30 years?
I think it's 30. Yeah, I think it's 30.
So, okay, and were you in a production of the Cabin Blazers in 1996?
I thought it was...
Is it later than that?
I thought it was earlier than that. I thought it was year 2 or 3.
Well, year 2 is 93, and then the next time we did it was 96. I don't know.
It must have been year 2 because by the time 96 came, I was
But
teaching.
I did know Jay, my husband, and my husband was in it because he was the naked Catholic on the cross.
Oh my God, he was. Yeah.
So I think it was like
I've seen your husband naked.
well, the back of yeah, many people have because that production sold out, and it's on again in August. Buy your tickets. Okay, so you are. I just want to get this straight. You're originally from Scarborough.
We say North York because I was on the other side of Scarborough, but sure, you can call it Scarborough.
Hey, I have a house in Scarborough. I lived there for 13 years.
Yeah.
But what brought you to Peterborough then?
So in '89, I started Teachers College at Trent. They had a program at that time called the Concurrent Education Program, where you got your Bachelor of Education and your Bachelor of Arts at the same time, and then you did 1 year in Kingston at the very end for your 5th year.
So that was always a 5-year program. Now it's a 6-year program, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2 years now to get your teaching degree.
Wow. And so it took you you didn't do it all right away. Like you weren't one of those 22 or 23-year-olds boom into teaching, right?
Right. So I knew I was going into teaching from the time I was 16. I taught swimming lessons, and I remember it was like this moment. I was like, oh, I have to teach. And then went to Trent and fell in love with doing theater at the Union Theatre, which is how I met you. And decided,
and Rob and a gazillion other people.
Decided that maybe school could slow down. So I did my 4th year over 2 years so that I could focus specifically on doing as much theater as I could. And then I became Trent's first drama teachable qualified student because they watched what I had done for so long. And so I was the first. I paved that road.
Wow. And so then you get your degree and you start teaching drama at PCVS?
I started at Thomas A. Stewart.
Okay.
Teaching drama there for, I think, 7 years, and then got the headship of the Integrated Arts Program at PCVS.
Okay, and explain that program to us, because I know it still exists, but it's after a massive fight, which we are sponsoring a play about in September, called Give 'Em Hell, about the fight to keep PCVS open, but it's now at TAS, right?
Yeah,
explain that program.
So the program has existed for, I'm going to say 25 years at least. I did my internship there, and the idea is that students come to the program specifically because they want to understand how to be diverse artists. They pick a focus, it could be dance, drama, visual art, or music, but the rest of their courses, at least half of their courses, are also done through the arts. So they had phys ed, that was arts-based. They had English, that was arts-based. And they worked as a cohort. And they did such experimental stuff, such a breadth and depth of really fantastic works. Students had to apply to be in the program. They came from across KPR. We had students who were way down in Port Hope who would get their parents to drive them to Millbrook and catch the bus here to get to the program.
Wow. It's amazing. So tell me your title right now, because then we're gonna fill in the gap.
Sure.
But what do you do right now?
I now am what they call an executive assistant, which is a bizarre title. Really, I'm a worker in the Communications and Political Action Department at OSSTF. And specifically, I'm the editor of our magazine, and I'm assigned to a number of portfolios, including human rights, labor activism, and I have a number of districts. I travel the province.
So, do you actually work in Toronto now, Tracey?
I do. I drive in every single day from Peterborough.
Whoa. Okay, so I'm so curious what happened that made you start to think union work might be what you want to do as opposed to staying in the classroom?
It was queer activism, actually. I have always, as you know, been a queer activist. I have a truly fairy godfather in all sense of the word. And I have always grown up believing in fighting for queer rights. And when I started doing that work in schools, running one of the first GSAs, and then...
Gay Straight Alliance
in
high school.
Thank you. I got recognized for that. Then our union, provincially, was doing some work writing curriculum for educators to expand their support for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender individuals. So I got tapped to be part of that writing team. And at that point I said, wait, my union, who I've already stood on the picket lines for over the last few years, because we had been on strike, my union does more than just fight for a better wage for me. My union stands up for students. My union stands up for the education system, and I got absolutely hooked.
Really? And was it even a question to leave teaching? I mean, you could have been on a trajectory of getting out of the classroom, becoming a vice principal, principal, superintendent. Like, that can be a track for a lot of upwardly mobile people in the education system, yes?
Yeah, and I had both in my head and ended up going the labor route only because, in all truthfulness, I applied to be on a track, like a program to learn to be a VP, and they didn't want me. So I said, F you, I'll go do the union, who wants me? And they wanted me.
And do you come from a labor background in a
I
labor
knew
family?
you were going to ask that. So my dear dad is here, and my mom and my
Mr.
dad,
Germa.
my late mom and my dad were management. And I do remember my mom saying, "Goddamn union," sometimes. And I know that my dad, his father, worked up in Kirkland Lake for Kirkland Lake Gold Mine, and actually broke the strike line because he had to feed his family. So there wasn't this depth of unionism, but what there was, and what my parents gave me, was a real sense of social justice, caring for others, never letting anybody else down. So I got that absolute sense that we look after people from them.
The thing about this play you're going to see tonight is, because I'm management at Fourth Line, I kind of understand Dutch Pamela's side of things quite often. Oh, hey, there's Francis. Hey, Francis. Sorry, I just saw Francis with Simone. So explain to me, is there a local part of OSSTF? What's the structure of your union?
So I started locally as what they call a branch president, which meant I was the rep at the school if somebody was having a crappy time or needed some support.
Still in the classroom?
Still in the classroom. Okay. And I did that for about 6 years.
And do you get any more money for that?
No, you just get phone calls at 2 a.m. And then I ran for the local vice president role, which is the whole Kawartha Pine Ridge area. We call it District 14 for our union.
Okay.
And I looked after people who were struggling through long-term disability, helping people who maybe had gotten themselves in trouble, people who were having a hard time on a variety, be it personal or work-related. I was the one who helped them get through those challenges.
How many teachers are represented provincially by OSSTF?
We are an organization of 62,000, and about 45,000 of those are teachers. We are a unique union in that we also represent education workers. So we represent custodial staff, educational assistants, psychometrists, psychologists, lunchroom folks, lunchroom monitors in some schools, in both the public system and some in the Catholic system.
Really? Okay, so wait, because I just wanted to ask about that. So you were secondary teachers in the public system, but then there's EFTO, I'm going to say it wrong.
Yeah, there are 4 education unions in Ontario, and it gets very confusing.
Okay.
There's ETFO, so the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, and that used to be the Federation of Women Teachers of Ontario.
Right.
And then an elementary one, and they merged, so they mostly represent elementary teachers only. Then there's the OECTA, O-E-C-T-A, which is the Ontario Ontario Educational Catholic Teachers Association.
Okay.
And so that is English. Thank you, not education. Thank you. God, I think I know this. Good Lord. And they represent the folks in the Catholic system. They do represent a few educational assistants and a few office staff, but 99% teaching staff. And then there's AEFO, which is the Francophone board, because we have Monsignor Jamon in Peterborough, which is the French public system, and some of their members are represented by AEFO, but their office staff are actually OSSTF.
Okay, and that is fascinating to me.
It's so confusing.
Yeah, it must be. And so, do all of the unions ever get together to do work?
Yeah, absolutely. Our presidents and our senior staff will meet at common tables very often. And locally, not quite as much, but we do. Even locally, the elementary teachers and OSSTF share a building. So they do an awful lot of advocacy together.
And tell me, so I just want to understand, OSSTF, you all have one contract for the whole province? Is that how it works?
Yes and no. So there are 2 tables of contracts, and we're in negotiations with them right now, so you're probably hearing things in the media. There is an education worker table, and that covers all of the folks who are not teachers. Then there's a teacher, occasional teacher table. And for each of those, there's a provincial level contract and a local level contract. And we don't actually have a contract until both of those are signed. Provincial deals with all the money, class size, all the really big things. Local deals with things like how do you access your days of bereavement? How would you access professional development funding? So much smaller sort of things.
And where are you, how long is a contract? Like normally, how long is a...
4 years is an average. It sort of depends on the milieu. It depends on what we're getting, what we want, what the government wants. Depends on the government if they want to get past the next election.
Right. Because you all have a lot of power in terms of, or correct me if I'm wrong, I get this sense only from the media, that when you during election time, you will throw your support behind certain candidates and then, expect your membership to vote en bloc, right?
That we suggest. Yeah. OSSTF members, and I need to be clear, I am not here speaking on behalf of the Federation.
She's not.
I am here telling you about me and my place in OSSTF, but I am not officially tonight speaking on behalf of the Federation.
Remember that, everyone. No calling.
Yeah. Not that I'm saying anything untoward.
No.
But we don't whip our members per se, but we often, in some ridings, like this last election, we went out of our way. So my department worked with local riding associations. Where can we elect an education-friendly government? Where can we elect people who are going to stand up for the public education system instead of trying to privatize it and have it turn into a money-making scheme for Doug Ford's friends?
Right. Okay. And so did you imagine, first of all, how long have you been full-time working for the union?
I did 4.5 years here locally out of the classroom, and it was very hard. I was a drama and English teacher. It was hard to leave. 4.5 years though, and now I have done 4.5 years at the provincial office, so I'm 9 years.
You're 9 years in?
Yeah.
And did you always think that when you made the move locally and then provincially that you were going to be in the union head office the rest of your life or the rest of your career?
Once you move into the provincial office, you have to give your job up. So I had to quit. I had to quit Kawartha Pine Ridge and take the risk that I was going to stay in union work. And if I didn't like it, if I couldn't do the drive to Toronto, I would have had to have found other work.
So wait, okay, this is what I wanted to ask you. So what about all those, like, your pension and all those things?
That does transfer over because as OSSTF staff, we are still under the Ontario Teacher Pension Plan. So that was helpful.
Okay, yeah.
That was protected, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And so, is it the same kind of thing with, like, that you'll get your number or whatever, even in the union, you'll be able to go at a certain point?
It's called an 85 factor. So when your age and your years of service reach 85, and mine might be September 30th, 2025. Not that I have a countdown on my phone.
I made such a mistake in my 20s getting into this theater thing. Mine is about 75, and it's dying in the barnyard directing. That is my retirement strategy.
Much sexier, though.
Not at all. Wow, that's amazing that you know when your 85 factor is exactly going to hit.
I do, and I will go that long for sure. I might go longer. I love the work I do. I don't love driving to Toronto every day, but I've embraced podcasts.
Oh my gosh, yes, me too.
And I do an awful lot of meetings on the phone.
Yeah. So during COVID, was the office closed, or how long have you been back, sort of full-time-ish? Or
we could work through COVID at home. We did work at home while the offices were closed, but then we almost immediately came back. And I was very lucky that we were able to work from home because, as you know, I got a little sick during COVID, but I was able to still work through that. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know. It used to be during COVID that you had a lot of Facebook posts from the Kit Coffee.
Kit Cafe.
Yeah, Kit Cafe.
On Hunter Street.
Less now. So I'm like, she must be back to the office.
Yeah, I'm back to the office.
What's a day in the union look like for you, like in your work?
Because I'm in the Communications and Political Action Department, it's following a lot of media. It's seeing what the government is saying and how do we respond. For me, it's often a lot of writing and co-writing with colleagues in the office for press releases, speaking notes for our leadership, responses to ministry statements or ministry moves, and so it's a lot of team writing. I also work with an incredible graphics department. So if you ever look at OSSTF work on social media and you see our posters or our what we call infographics that say Doug Ford sucks and education's great, that's me and my department. And so we come up with the idea, and then our graphics people make it look good. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever seen Spinal Tap, where they draw the napkin, the Stonehenge on the napkin. Yeah, I draw stuff on napkins all the time and give it to my graphics folks, and they turn it into magic.
They are magic.
They are fantastic.
Yeah. Graphic designers are magic, for sure. So I'm curious, have you ever been on strike on a picket line?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. When I first started, so year 2, I think it was, and I was teaching what they call long-term occasional. So I had I think 2 classes covering somebody's maternity leave, and we were on strike. And I took to the picket line and absolutely did it, walked it. And then we had a couple of days of action during NDP guy, come on.
Bob Ray.
Thank you very much.
Great days.
Yeah, we took days of action then. And then during the last strike, which was my first year in the office, so I started at OSSTF Provincial in January of 2019, and by like October, we were on the strike line.
It was really heating up, right? Like, if COVID hadn't hit, there was going to be something major happen.
Well, it was major. We did days and days and days and days. And what was amazing that time is that you asked earlier about the unions working together. That was when we had all education workers standing up. We had communities, we had you folks coming to line saying, we aren't going to stand for this. We believe in the public education system. And it was pretty major, but yeah, COVID shut that down.
It's a real challenge, public education right now in the province, right?
It is.
So what, like, if you were gonna, from your point of view only, not OSSTF, like, what do you think what are the fixes? What are the things that can be done? Is it strictly just money?
It's money, it's time, it's recognizing that you have to follow the calls to action under Truth and Reconciliation. It's recognizing that mental health is a significant challenge for young people right now, and it is putting money behind programs and supports that make sure students find the success they have. I was lucky enough, you and I both, we're around the same age, and we grew up when the system had money.
Yeah.
And I remember, thank God, somebody decided that I needed some help. They took me to some psychiatrists, I got tested, they put me in a special class. That saved me. You said eat this.
I know, I just did it too.
And
you're doing the right thing.
It absolutely, thank God the system was there then. Because that made me who I am. I might not have made it through school without those supports, and for many students, those supports aren't there now.
Right, and large class sizes, and lots of things getting taken away. So that's so interesting to me. I'm curious, what is the best part of your job, either in a day or just the overview of the best part of your job, the thing you love the most that you do?
I love editing our magazine. I adore that. But one of the best things I experienced was I was only 4 months into the job, and my federation sent me to Bangladesh to work with the Bangladesh Center for Worker Solidarity. So that was working directly with a couple of other Canadian unions with the garment worker unions in Bangladesh. And you may remember that the Rana Plaza tragedy where there was the collapse of the factory. So we get to work with those unionists who are doing the most challenging grassroots organizing ever. And even just last week, one of their activists who was out front of a Bangladeshi factory trying to say to workers, hey, you deserve the right to go to the bathroom. As young women who are workers, you deserve the right to be able to deal with your menstrual cycle and get up from your machine. And that person was beaten to death.
Wow.
So getting the opportunity to work with labor activists around the world, and I've done a few other in the U.S. and we have connections through South America, Central America. It just reminds me of the power of exactly what I think we're going to see tonight. That each individual worker has that ability, when they work with somebody beside them, to make a difference.
Well, it's also interesting, you know, the power of the collective, right? And the first Festival Friday, there was somebody who stood up and asked a question, but referred to everybody as comrades, and I know a lot of union people say brothers and sisters. There is that real belief in the power of the collective. And you know, one of the things I said, Dave Warda was here last week, who's is he the president of your union?
He is the president of OSSTF District 14. I was the vice president with him. He's also the president of the Peterborough Labor Council.
Yeah, that's why he was here.
Yeah.
He was saying, like, everyone knows how much everyone else makes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so funny when you think about that, because as management, it gets me a little bit sweaty. Because we do, we'll be making a deal here, you're making a deal here, and you don't want everyone to form. Now, we have unions, obviously, that we deal with, but it is an interesting concept to think about the level playing field and how important it is for equity and fairness long term.
Yeah, and I think it brings out the best in people because they aren't always teaching to the test or trying to, I'm trying to think of a sports metaphor, right? Like, if you're always trying to get the puck in that one spot of the net, you know you've got a sweet spot, but you're never passing to the other guy, your team's not going to win. And when we work together and we make sure that maybe you're having a bad year, maybe you're ill, thank God the union is there with your long-term disability, your benefits, and your pension, and other supports to get you through those hard times.
Yeah, for sure. What's the worst part of your job? I didn't interrupt you.
Oh, the worst part of my job.
Besides the drive.
Well, the drive, yeah. The worst part of the job is when somebody wants help and I feel like I beat my head against the wall because the government, they describe a teaching situation or a classroom situation and we can't help them because we don't have the tools and the government has taken those tools away. So a great example, a number of years ago, the ministry had rolled out, the other ministry, the Liberal government ministry, had rolled out a fantastic curriculum to support truth and reconciliation and Indigenous learning in classrooms. Education workers and teachers had come together. It was written by us, for us, to support a really diverse approach to teaching. And the Ford government came in on August 20-something, knowing the school year was starting September 5th, and pulled it. So we had teachers and education workers saying, what do I do now? And we had no answer for them. And that's the hardest part.
Right. And there's contract negotiations right now? Yeah. How do you think it's going to go?
Without Doug Ford.
Okay.
And
with a solid, he has a solid majority, solid mandate.
He does.
Only a year out from the election, right?
Yeah.
So he's got 3 years of a mandate.
And I think, for anybody here, I would recommend, if they believe in education, to do a little research. There's a great website called Here for Students, and you can hear about what matters. And I think the more we get, back to the collective, the more we get the community fighting for public education and our other public services, because it's not just public education they're fighting, right? Our healthcare system they're trying to dismantle that, trying to dismantle veterans services at the federal level. They are desperately ignoring the needs of people in our community. And if we don't work together, we're going to all lose.
Yeah, okay. Well, it would be interesting for us to keep an eye on all that. Thank you for giving me a sense, and all of us, a real kind of window into your work and being a union activist and worker. Would you all join me in thanking Tracey Germa, please?